Welcome back to my Horizon Zero Dawn Master Machine Hunting series. Horizon Forbidden West will be here in just a few weeks, and I'm making these guides for everyone playing Zero Dawn for the first time, and also for all of us replaying the original Horizon game to get hyped for the sequel. In this video, we're covering Frostclaws, hands down one of the toughest machines in the whole game. Don't worry though, I've got a great strategy for you guys to take down Frostclaws fast, plus extra tips on how to get resources for crafting expensive ammo. So even if you have played before, stick around, because I bet you'll learn something new. So I think we can all agree that Frostclaws are really intimidating, especially when you run into them for the first time in the For the Werak quest. For as big as they are, they're very fast, and they have a ton of really strong melee and ranged attacks. One Frostclaw on its own is a challenge, but the only Frostclaw site on the map can spawn up to 4 at a time, which is almost just absurd. Now I know in my Scorcher video I said that I thought Scorchers are the toughest machine in the game, and I'd still stand by that for one-on-one combat. I actually don't think fighting a single Frostclaw is too hard, but to be honest, when I said that, I hadn't gone up against Frostclaws in a while, and while I was making this video, I pretty much convinced myself that fighting 3 or 4 Frostclaws is the toughest combat scenario you can find in the game. But you know how tough Frostclaws are, so let me show you the best way I've found to take them down. Now, if you guys have been following the series, you know that normally I would want to take advantage of the fact that Frostclaws have a body weakness to fire. But I've tried to exploit this every way I can think of. Fire arrows, fire bombs, fire blast wires, and even the forge fire. But no matter how you deal it, fire just doesn't seem to be that effective on Frostclaws. A big part of this is their Ice Storm ability that can quench the burn effect completely, but fire also just doesn't seem to deal enough damage fast enough to give you a significant advantage. So with fire out, we're pretty much left with finding a way to deal as much damage as possible, as quickly as possible. Focusing on the Fireclaw's weak components, the freeze unit on its belly and the freeze sacks on its shoulders, will help with this, but it's difficult to line up precise shots on those when you've got 3 or 4 Frostclaws coming after you at once. That's why the Blast Sling is going to be our friend when fighting Frostclaws. Blast bombs are one of your highest damage dealing tools, but more importantly, you can fire them quickly and they have a huge damage radius compared to arrows. So you don't need to take the time to carefully line up shots like you would with precision arrows, for example. Another weapon that can deal a ton of damage is the tripcasters, specifically blast wires. Now I'm not a fan of spamming blast wires throughout an entire fight, and I honestly think you'd get pummeled by the Frostclaws if you tried to do that, but blast wires are a great opener for crowd control when you're dealing with multiple Frostclaws. You'll be able to deal a bunch of damage to at least one of them straight away, which makes it much easier to get one of them taken down and out of the fight. It's amazing how much easier the fight gets once you've taken 1 or 2 out of the group. Now, I'm not saying you should just spam blast bombs the entire fight. You could do that, but the problem is blast bombs only deal 25% extra damage when a machine is frozen, whereas arrows deal up to 300% extra damage. That's important because when we destroy the freeze components on the Frostclaws, they'll become frozen and we'll have an opportunity to deal a lot of damage. When that happens, we want to use either hardpoint arrows or precision arrows to deal as much damage as possible. So that means we need the Shadow Hunter bow or the Shadow Sharpshot bow. Personally, I prefer to use hardpoint arrows because I like the faster fire rate that the higher handling on the Hunter bow allows. Plus, hardpoint arrows are cheaper than precision arrows, but lots of people like to use a Sharpshot bow and precision arrows instead. It's really just a personal preference. So here's our strategy for dealing with multiple Frostclaws. When we arrive at the site, we want to set up a bunch of blast wires all over the lake first. Next, we can land some sticky bombs on the first Frostclaw. Sticky bombs deal more damage than regular blast bombs, but they have a delay, so it's best to use regular blast bombs in full combat, but we'll take the extra damage from sticky bombs as an opener. Once the Frostclaws start coming after us, we want to position ourselves behind our blast wires and lob blast bombs at them to start dealing damage. You'll have to focus on good dodge timing and continuing to move around to avoid all the Frostclaws' melee and ranged attacks, but continue hitting them with blast bombs whenever you get an opening, and keep putting the blast wires between you and them. If you can, try to aim your blast bombs at their freeze components, but the most important thing is to keep the pressure on them by hitting them wherever you can with the blast bombs. Eventually, one of their freeze components will explode, and that's your opportunity to deal a bunch of damage. Switch to your precision or hardpoint arrows, and hit them as many times as you can before they lose the freeze effect. After the freeze effect is gone, switch back to bombs and repeat this process until you've taken them all out. With 3 or 4 Frostclaws, it truly is chaos the entire time, but if you can strike a balance between avoiding their attacks and hitting them with bombs whenever you have openings, you'll be able to take them down faster than you think. So let's put all of that together and take a look at the live combat. Okay guys, so I'm here at the Frostclaw site, and it looks like we've got 3 of them spawned in right now with a couple of watchers as well. It's possible for 4 to spawn here, but I've loaded in like 5 or 6 times and I just can't get 4 to spawn for some reason, so we're gonna go with 3 for the example. I think it'll be still a pretty good demo. I'm on very hard difficulty level. And then my outfit is the Banuk Ice Hunter Heavy, which gives you a lot of good freeze resist. And I loaded it up with 2 melee resist mods, so we have good melee resist as well. This is actually a pretty cheap outfit that you can pick up in the Frozen Wilds, so I would definitely recommend grabbing it. Obviously, if you can get the master version, that's better, but I think it costs like 10 blue gleam, which you're probably not going to have, especially not before you fight the first 3 Frostclaws in the For the Wear quest. You know, you're just not going to have that much blue gleam, and you're probably going to want to buy the Banuk bows first. So I'm going to go with the Banuk Ice Hunter Heavy. On the Tripcaster, we're just going to open with the Tripcaster and blast wires all over the lake. So I just have a bunch of damage mods on there to maximize the damage that the blast wires do. And we're just going to open with that pretty much. I'm not going to use it throughout the fight. I also might open with the Sharp Shot bow with some precision arrows if I can get a good shot at one of the Frostclaws freeze sacks. And I've got a couple damage mods and a handling mod on that. But our main damage dealer during the fight is going to be the Shadow Blast Sling. Obviously, if you can get the Lodge Blast Sling, that's a little bit better, but I'm just going to use the Shadow version. And I just have all damage mods on it. It has pretty good base handling on its own, I think. And then the other good damage dealer, I prefer hardpoint arrows over precision arrows. So I'm going to use a Hunter Bow, the Shadow Hunter Bow. I just like the fact that I can shoot them a little bit faster. I feel like I deal more damage like per second doing it that way, but if you prefer the precision arrows, feel free to do that. I'm just going to use a Hunter Bow and hardpoint arrows loaded up with all damage mods. Okay, let's take a look at skills. So you definitely want dodge prowess. There's a lot of very fast melee attacks that the Frostclaws do, and you're going to want to be able to dodge out of the way. So dodge prowess extends your dodge, and you're definitely going to want that. Also definitely going to want hunter reflexes to slow down time and get a better shot at the free sacks, and concentration for the same reason. But other than that, well, you're going to want double shot and triple shot as well, of course. But other than those, I don't think there's anything really specific that you need for the Frostclaws. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is preload 3 hardpoint arrows and 3 precision arrows, just so that when we use those for the first time, we do some extra damage. And then I'm going to tee up in the bottom left here our freeze resist potion, but I'm not going to put it on yet because I want to put down these blast wires all over the lake first. Now, if you keep your distance from the machines, obviously they won't notice you while you're doing this, and it's actually fairly easy, I've found, with the Frostclaws to get all these down, as long as you just keep your distance from them, and the Watchers, obviously. The blast wires are going to help us with the Watchers, too. I don't know why Guerrilla felt the need to include Watchers spawning here when you have like up to 4 Frostclaws, but they did, so the blast wires are going to help us with them too. Okay, so these guys notice us, so I'm going to give up on these wires and go to bombs straight away. Remember, you can jump and get the slow-mo effect to aim a little better with the bombs. You want to try to aim for the free sacks, but it's more important that you just hit them as much as you can. So that guy's stunned. Switch to this one. This guy's frozen, so I'm going to hit him right away for as much damage as I can. And I'll just hip fire arrows at him. I'm not going to fully draw. Okay, he's unfrozen now. And I didn't take my freeze potion, so I'll take that now. We'll switch back to bombs. And I'm going to run over here and get back behind my blast wires. There we go. So I'm just going to hip fire arrows. Not to get hardpoint arrows there. You are going to take damage here, so it's best to have your potions teed up. It's kind of a... Unless you want to run around for 15 minutes taking sneaky shots, you're going to take damage, so just be ready for that. I guess we do have 4 of them here, looks like. So while he's down, I'm going to try and blow up one of his free sacks. Well, he got back up, so I'll just hit him with bombs. That one back there is almost dead, so if I hit him, I can probably just take care of him right now. back to the bombs. And so we just have 2 of them left. I guess we did have 4 here total. So if you hit them, you'll interrupt their attack animations if you can time that. So that's worth noting. And I find it's best to just focus on bombs until they get frozen, and then pull out your arrows to deal a bunch of damage really fast. Remember, bombs only have a 25% damage increase on frozen machines, but arrows have like a 3 times increase. So you want to use arrows while they're frozen for sure. And you want to dodge through their legs for those. Otherwise they'll kind of continue for a while. Missed that one. Oh, kind of fell off the side of the cliff here. Let's get back up and hit this guy. Got stuck on the icicle there for a second. That's why you want to dive through their legs, because they'll keep coming after you. So we'll go back to the bombs here. That guy tried to grab us. He's frozen, so we'll hit him with hardpoint arrows. Okay, took care of that one, so we just have 1 left. I'll show you the sticky bombs real quick, since we just have 1 to deal with now. So there's a delay on those, of course, but they deal more damage. So if you can, if you have an opportunity, I would use them. And then we should just be able to whip arrows at this guy. And he's down. As you guys can see, that blast sling is really key. With 3 or 4 Frostclaws, it takes things from totally chaotic to maybe just slightly chaotic. In all seriousness though, I really think the blast sling is important for multi-Frostclaw fights. The other thing I want to make sure to reiterate is the fact that you need to get comfortable hip firing your bow, and not fully drawing every shot. The Frostclaws are big enough targets that you really don't need the precision of a fully drawn bow, and you can deal so much more damage by getting comfortable with the partial draw. If you're doing this with precision arrows, it's going to be tougher because of the low handling. That's why I prefer a hunter bow and hardpoint arrows. But if you're really set on using precision arrows, I would recommend modding your sharpshot bow to have at least 40 handling, 50 would be even better. Now of course, if you get the Banuk bows, this whole strategy will be even easier, but I think it's important to see that you can manage the Frostclaws without them. When you fight the first 3 during the For the Werak quest, it's very unlikely that you'll have gotten the Banuk bows already. In fact, For the Werak is one of the quests a lot of us do to get the blue gleam needed to buy the Banuk bows in the first place. That being said, I do have some extra tips for you guys, and the first one is a specialized weapon you can get that helps you deal with the Frostclaws. Once you get to Meridian, you can buy the Shadow Rattler, which shoots metal bolts. The Rattler isn't a very popular weapon, but it is a good way to deal damage to frozen machines quickly if you're not comfortable hip firing your bow. For Frostclaws, you would use the Rattler to deal damage while they're frozen instead of arrows. If you want to try this out, I would recommend modding the Rattler for the highest damage you can. The other tip I want to leave you guys with is a way to replenish the metal vessels and blaze you're going to burn through while using the blast bombs. Lancehorns are your best source for metal vessels, and this site near the Morning's Watch gate is the best place I've found to hunt them. Find yourself a herd and hit a few of their freeze canisters with freeze arrows to cause explosions, and then finish them off however you'd like. Now, before you loot their bodies, use harvest arrows to shoot off the horns and these 2 metal rods on their backs. The harvest arrows will turn a component that was worth 1 metal vessel into 6, so you'll have 24 metal vessels from each Lancehorn. Lots of people do this to farm blaze canisters from grazers, but I don't think many people realize they can use the same trick on Lancehorns for metal vessels. Just remember, depending on how much tear you have on your bow, it might take 2 harvest arrows for each horn. You can do the same thing to the radar unit on Scrapper's shoulders, but Lancehorns give you way more metal vessels. Alright guys, that's my master machine hunting guide for Frostclaws. Like I said before, I think fighting 3 or 4 Frostclaws at once is the toughest fight in the game. So if you're struggling with them, don't beat yourself up too much, and I hope this video helped you out. For all the Horizon veterans out there, I'd be interested to hear your favorite ways to deal with Frostclaws, so go ahead and leave me a comment down below. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned something, hitting that like button is always appreciated and helps me out. I've got just a handful of Zero Dawn machines left to cover before Forbidden West comes out in just a few weeks, and you guys know I'm going to be putting out a bunch of Forbidden West content, so make sure you're subscribed for that. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.